Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Big news from Elon Musk yesterday. Tesla Semi will start shipping this year. This is a big deal. This year it won't be that big of a deal in terms of its impact on Tesla stock, but as you go out the next few years, I'm going to show you how this has an impact on Tesla in terms of revenue and in terms of profit. Let's get started with that. Are you ready? Let's go. So this is from Tesla's website, and you can see here there's a 300-mile range version planned and a 500-mile range version. He's calling for the 500-mile range version to come first. The important detail I'm going to go through in a minute is less than 2 kilowatt hours per mile. I'm going to show you why that matters for the battery pack and the cost of the Semi and how they can make profits from the Semi. Expected base price for the 300-mile range, $150,000. Expected base price for the 500-mile range, $180,000. I think ultimately it says base price. Ultimately, we're looking at $200,000 for the 500-mile range vehicle, maybe more than that. But let me go through and show you these numbers and you can see where it's going. I'm using $200,000 as the price. I think, once they start selling some, the price will go up. It's hard for me to accept that a Tesla Semi is going to cost, less than a Model X Plaid or a Model S Plaid. It seems to me it's a much bigger vehicle that's much more capable in a lot of ways. But who knows? Anyway, let me dive in and we're going to go with $200,000. I'll explain that in a minute. And now let's talk about battery pack cost again. Less than 2 kilowatt hours per mile. If we look at battery pack size, for 500 miles at 2 kilowatt hours per mile, you'd be talking about a 1 megawatt hour pack. 1 megawatt hour, that's 1,000 kilowatt hours. 500 miles would be that. So it should be better than 1 megawatt hour or less than 1 megawatt hour. But starting with a 1 megawatt hour pack, if it does end up being 2 kilowatt hours per mile, you'd be talking about a 1 megawatt hour pack. And if the batteries cost $100 a kilowatt hour, which is roughly what they're costing today, that would be $100,000 for the pack. If you're selling the vehicle for $180,000 and you have all the other stuff that goes in the vehicle besides the battery cells, you have the pack, you have the wheels, you have the motors, you have all that stuff, it's hard to make money if it costs you $100,000 just for the pack. Now, as battery production costs come down and Tesla making its own 4680 cells helps them control costs, you're going to see potentially the price per kilowatt hour drops to $75 or even $50 a kilowatt hour, and that brings the cost of a 1 megawatt hour pack down to $75,000 or even $50,000. But I think what we're really looking at is the 800 kilowatt hour pack. The 800 kilowatt hour pack, that's about 8 times the size of a Model S or Model X pack. You're talking about $80,000 for at $100 a kilowatt hour, dropping to $60,000 and $40,000. And then 600 kilowatt hours is probably a dream. That might be right for the 300-mile range vehicle. And you can see that the cost of the batteries really drops. But that just gives you a sense of what's the cost of the vehicle to build for Tesla. When Tesla builds the vehicle, they've got to build it at such cost that they're able to deliver to the customers and still make a profit on the vehicle. That's a significant challenge. So I ran some rough numbers, just wild estimates on my part, that suppose Tesla sells 5,000 in 2023. They're starting to ramp production of Tesla Semi and they get 5,000 units out in 2023. You're going to see that's not going to have a big impact yet. 2024, maybe they get to 25,000 units, 2025, 100,000, and 2026, 200,000. This is global, right? In the US, you're seeing about 300,000 semis a year. China is more globally. You're probably talking about in the ballpark of 1 million or more a year. So could Tesla ultimately grab 20% of that market? It may be more than, I think China might be 1 million vehicles alone, 1 million semis a year just in China alone. So I think it's not crazy to say Tesla could potentially sell 200,000 semis, especially since they're going to save the operators so much in terms of energy cost compared to using diesel, especially as we see fossil fuel prices rising. There's a lot of potential, not to mention there's so many other advantages of Tesla Semi. So with those kind of sales figures and assuming an average selling price of $200,000, which I'm being optimistic there because certainly Tesla is saying $180,000, I'm struggling to see how they make a profit on $180,000 if the battery pack costs $100,000. But we'll see anyway. With these numbers, with $200,000 a vehicle and 5,000 vehicles, you see $1 billion in revenue. It's not huge revenue for Tesla, but it's not nothing. I think Tesla's probably looking at over $100 billion in revenue in 2023, so $1 billion is kind of a drop in the bucket. 2024, if they make 25,000 vehicles, it pumps them up to $5 billion in revenue. And again, by 2024, I'm projecting Tesla's well over $200 billion in revenue. So this is, it's a couple percent of Tesla's overall revenue. It doesn't suck, but it's not that big of a deal. At 2025, I get to $20 billion in revenue. Now, 2025, at this point, Tesla has got, very high volume, maybe approaching 8 million vehicles a year, selling Model Ys, Model 3s, Cybertrucks, and so on. Again, I just don't see Semi ever being that huge a portion of the business because the rest of the business is so high revenue and high profit. And at the same time, at some point, Robotaxi network comes out and all these numbers become trivial and the Robotaxi network drives everything. But you could see Robotaxi revenues coming out somehow from Semi. I don't know where that comes. I don't know how that comes. But if you apply the Robotaxi model to Semi, that may be a game changer as well. And then for 2026, you can see $40 billion in revenue. Not bad. It's certainly that's more revenue than Tesla had like 2020, I think, maybe 2021. Margin here, I'm assuming that the first year, Tesla only has a limited margin of maybe 10%. They might even have 0% margin on Semi the first year. But margin gradually grows 15, 20, 25%. Again, it's hard to achieve big margins when the batteries are so expensive. If they can keep the vehicle super efficient, if they can keep the battery pack size down because the vehicle is super efficient, and then if they can keep their cost of batteries low by manufacturing 4680 cells with super efficiency, then you can get there. And as they improve the 4680 cell and increase the energy density of the cell, they might need fewer cells per vehicle, and that could also drive lower cost and increase margin. Last, we look at profit. So if you take that, and this is gross profit, you could look at the margins and you could say, okay, for 2023, it's $100 million in gross profit. That's a drop in the bucket. 2024, $750 million in gross profit. Not bad, right? 2025, you're potentially talking about $4 billion in gross profit and then $10 billion in 2026. That starts to add up to some pretty significant numbers for Tesla down the road, assuming that the rest of the business doesn't grow as huge as I think it's going to grow. I think ultimately these numbers, they're not bad. They help out. They really help out. It's more about accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. If Tesla is able to shift the global fleet of semis to electric, it's really a big deal in terms of reducing air pollution, whether you're talking about climate change or otherwise. Diesel fumes are bad in so many different ways. So there's a lot of potential for this to make a big difference for the world and still make significant profits for Tesla. So I hope that's a brief introduction to how I think Semi will make a big difference, and I hope this helps you figure out how to assess Tesla stock. With Semi going online, you're going to see a big volume of Tesla semis spooling out as they ramp 4680 cell production, they ramp Tesla Semi manufacturing. I just wanted to add in here real quick. If you think about my battery revenue model from the past, Tesla Semi messes up the battery revenue model, because Tesla regular vehicles end up generating a lot of revenue per kilowatt hour, like $600 or more in revenue per kilowatt hour. Semi, we're looking at like $200 a kilowatt hour. So it torches the battery revenue model. But since it's such a small share of the company's overall battery usage, it doesn't really make a big dent in the battery revenue model in general. There's a huge potential market for Tesla Semi of more than 1 million vehicles a year. Maybe I'm underestimating when I say they get to 200,000. Maybe they get to 500,000 vehicles a year. Who knows where it goes? A lot of great potential for this. Very, very excited. If you like this video, please support this channel on the Locals platform, on Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. We want to be less wrong in our estimates of Tesla's profits. Check out my other videos, and please subscribe to this channel. And thank you so much for watching.